My name is Meredith Rodriguez, but everyone calls me Mary. If you're listening to this, it means I just destroyed Preston Blackwell III's career in front of 15 board members, 5 major clients, and God knows how many other witnesses. What that entitled little prince didn't know when he fired me this morning was that I've been recording every conversation, every meeting, every humiliating comment for the past 8 months. See, when you grow up in Queens with a single mom who cleaned offices at night, worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table, you learn one very important lesson early. Always keep receipts. Because the system is designed to erase people like me. But today I use their own system to destroy them. This is my story. This is how a community college dropout from Queens took down the golden boy of corporate America. And if you've ever been told you don't belong somewhere because of where you came from, you're going to want to hear every single word of this. Let me paint you a picture of where I come from. I was born in Elmhurst, Queens, in a 1-bedroom apartment above a bodega. My mom, Carmen Rodriguez, was 19 when she had me. No husband, no family money, just determination. She worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. Days at a dry cleaner, evenings cleaning office buildings in Manhattan, weekends at a diner in Astoria. I spent most of my childhood doing homework in break rooms, falling asleep on office couches while my mom vacuumed around me. By the time I was 8, I was Sophia's age now. I was translating for my mom at parent-teacher conferences because her English wasn't perfect yet. I was calling insurance companies, arguing with landlords, handling adult conversations because someone had to. You grow up fast when you're poor. The kids at school, they had PlayStations and birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese. I had a stack of library books and the responsibility of making sure we didn't get evicted. But you know what that teaches you? It teaches you that everything has to be earned. Nothing is handed to you. And if you want something better, you have to be willing to work twice as hard as everyone else just to get half as far. High school was complicated. I was smart, really smart. Honor roll, debate team, student government. My guidance counselor kept pushing me toward 4-year colleges. Meredith, you could get into Columbia, NYU, maybe even Harvard with the right essays. But here's what guidance counselors at rich schools don't understand about kids like me. College isn't just about tuition. It's about not working for 4 years. It's about having parents who can support you while you study. It's about having the luxury of being a full-time student. We ran the numbers. Even with financial aid, even with scholarships, my mom would have had to work herself to death to cover what was left. And I couldn't do that to her. I couldn't be the reason she collapsed from exhaustion at 60. So I made a choice, Queens Community College. I could live at home, work part-time, help with bills, not glamorous, but practical. My guidance counselor looked at me like I was throwing my life away. Meredith Community College, you're better than that. Better than that. Like the thousands of hardworking people at QCC were somehow lesser. That was my first real lesson in class prejudice. But it wouldn't be my last. Sophomore year at QCC, I met David Morales. Pre-med, working 2 jobs, just as broke as me, but God, he was beautiful. And he treated me like I was the smartest person in the room. We studied together, dreamed together, planned this whole future. Then I got pregnant at 20. Not planned, obviously. David wanted to get married, drop out, get a job. We can make this work, Mary. We can build something together. But I could see it in his eyes, the fear, the way his dreams were already shrinking to fit our new reality. And I realized I couldn't be the reason someone else gave up on their future. So I made another choice. I told him to finish school, become the doctor he was meant to be. I'd handle this on my own. He fought me on it, cried, begged, but eventually he understood. Sometimes love means letting someone go so they can become who they're supposed to be. David's now an ER doctor in California, married to a surgeon, living the life he deserved. And I had Sophia, 8 pounds, 2 ounces of pure determination. The moment I held her, everything changed. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was about building something better for her. Those first few years were brutal. I finished my associate's degree with Sophia on my hip, literally. I'd bring her to night classes, feed her during breaks, change diapers in bathroom stalls between lectures. My professors thought I was crazy. Meredith, maybe you should take some time off. Come back when things are more stable. But I couldn't afford stability. I needed that degree to get a better job than the restaurant work I was doing. I graduated with a 3.8 GPA and immediately started looking for office work. Anything with benefits, anything that didn't require nights and weekends. That's when I found Blackwell and Associates. The job posting was for a mailroom clerk. High school diploma required, some college preferred, $32,000 a year plus health insurance. To me, that might as well have been winning the lottery. I walked into that interview in a suit from Goodwill that I'd had tailored at a shop in Chinatown. Sophia was at daycare, the most expensive daycare I could barely afford, because I knew she needed to be somewhere safe while I worked. Richard Blackwell himself interviewed me, old school guy, built the company from nothing back in the 70s. He looked at my resume and said, "Community college, huh? What made you choose that path?" I could have made excuses, could have talked about financial constraints or family obligations. Instead, I looked him in the eye and said, because I needed to work while I learned, and because I believe the best education comes from doing, not just studying. He hired me on the spot. Those first months in the mailroom, I treated it like graduate school. Every memo I delivered, every document I sorted, I read it all. Marketing strategies, client proposals, budget reports, I was absorbing everything. The marketing department was on the 3rd floor. I'd linger when I delivered their mail, listening to strategy meetings, watching presentations. The coordinators were all Ivy League graduates, Sarah from Princeton, Jennifer from Yale, Marcus from Columbia. They were smart, no doubt, but they talked about demographics and consumer behavior like they were reading from textbooks. I'd grown up in those demographics they were trying to reach. I was the consumer behavior they were analyzing. But when I'd offer insights during casual conversations, they'd smile politely and change the subject. Like my real-world experience wasn't as valuable as their theoretical knowledge. After 6 months, a junior coordinator position opened up. I applied immediately. My supervisor laughed, "Mary, you're great at what you do. But marketing requires a specific skill set, maybe in a few years when you have more preparation." Preparation, code for the right kind of education. But I didn't give up. I started taking night classes at Hunter College, working toward my bachelor's degree, business administration with a focus on marketing, all while working full-time and raising Sophia. 2 years later, that same position opened up again. This time, I had 45 credits toward my bachelor's degree, 6 months of marketing coursework, and a portfolio of campaign ideas I'd been developing in my spare time. The interview was with the marketing director, Patricia Wells. Wharton MBA, 20 years experience, intimidating as hell. She flipped through my application and said, "Your academic background is unconventional. What makes you think you can compete with candidates from top-tier programs?" I'd prepared for this question. I pulled out a presentation I'd created about their Morrison Industries campaign, the one that had been underperforming for months. I'd analyzed their demographics, identified the disconnect, and developed a revised strategy that would speak to their actual customer base instead of who they thought their customers were. "This is your current Morrison campaign," I said, showing her their materials. "It's targeting college-educated professionals aged 25 to 40. But Morrison's actual customer base is working-class families aged 30 to 55. People like my neighbors in Queens. People who make purchasing decisions based on value and reliability, not prestige and status." Patricia's eyebrows went up. I continued, "Your current campaign talks about optimizing lifestyle efficiency. Your customers want to know if it's going to last and if they can afford it. 2 completely different languages." I handed her my revised campaign materials. Down-to-earth language, real families in the photos, focus on durability and cost-effectiveness. She studied them for 10 minutes without saying a word. Finally, she looked up. "Where did you get the budget data for this revised strategy?" I smiled. "I didn't need budget data. I used the same budget allocation you're already using, just reposition the messaging and media placement." I got the job. My first year as a junior coordinator was eye-opening. I threw myself into every project, stayed late every night, took on extra assignments. The Morrison campaign revision I'd proposed, it increased their engagement by 37% and sales by 22%. But success in corporate America isn't just about results. It's about perception. The way you talk, the way you dress, the references you make in casual conversation. When my colleagues discussed their weekend trips to the Hamptons, I talked about taking Sophia to Flushing Meadows Park. When they mentioned their favorite restaurants in Soho, I recommended the best tacos in Jackson Heights. I wasn't trying to be different, I was just being myself. But in their world, being yourself was only acceptable if yourself fit their narrow definition of acceptable. The microaggressions were constant. "Mary, you're so articulate." Like they were surprised I could form complete sentences. "Where did you learn to analyze data like that? Like good ideas could only come from expensive schools. You have such a unique perspective." Translation: "You're not like us, but sometimes that's useful." But I pushed through because the work itself was fulfilling. I was good at understanding what made people tick, what motivated them to choose one product over another, and slowly, very slowly, I was building a reputation. 3 years in, a senior coordinator position opened up. I'd been doing senior-level work for months, managing client relationships, leading strategy sessions. My performance reviews were outstanding. Patricia told me I was a natural at client management. I applied with confidence. My portfolio was strong, my results spoke for themselves. But they hired Marcus Chen, Cornell MBA, 2 years less experience, but the right background. The feedback was always the same: "You're doing great work, Mary. Keep it up, and your time will come." But somehow that time never came. Every promotion went to someone with the right degree, the right connections, the right pedigree. Year 4, another opening. I'd completed my bachelor's degree by then, all A's, graduated summa cum laude. I'd brought in 3 new clients personally. The Morrison account had become our most successful campaign under my management. They hired Jennifer Walsh, Georgetown MBA, straight out of school, 0 real-world experience. The reason? She brings fresh energy and innovative thinking. Fresh energy, innovative thinking. I'd been innovating for 4 years, but apparently innovation only counted when it came from the right zip code. That's when I realized something. I could work twice as hard, be twice as smart, deliver twice the results, and I'd always be seen as the girl from Queens who got lucky. To them, I wasn't a marketing professional. I was a diversity success story. Then came March 15th, the day that changed everything. Richard Blackwell called an all-hands meeting with that big grin on his face. I'm thinking, finally, after 6 years of proving myself, this has to be my promotion to marketing director. Patricia had been hinting about retirement. I'd been managing half her responsibilities for months. We're packed into the main conference room, and Richard stands up with obvious pride. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet our new marketing director, my nephew, Preston Blackwell III. Harvard MBA, fresh from a consulting position at McKinsey, ready to bring cutting-edge strategy to our team." My heart didn't just stop. It shattered. 6 years. 6 years of 60-hour weeks, night classes, proving myself over and over. And they handed my dream job to a 29-year-old who got his position through pure nepotism. Preston stood up, and I'll never forget my first impression. Expensive suit, perfect posture, that casual confidence that only comes from never having to worry about anything in your entire life. He had the kind of polish that money buys: good schools, good connections, good dental work. "Thanks, Uncle Rich," he said in this prep school lockjaw accent. "I'm looking forward to optimizing our human resources and bringing some real strategic sophistication to the team. McKinsey taught me that every organization has untapped potential. We just need to identify inefficiencies and streamline operations." Untapped potential, inefficiencies. He was talking about us, the people who'd built this company, like we were problems to be solved rather than assets to be valued. Preston's first day was educational. He scheduled individual meetings with every team member to assess current capabilities and identify optimization opportunities. Corporate speak for figure out who to fire. My meeting was at 2 p.m. I'd prepared a comprehensive overview of my projects, client relationships, and campaign results. I was ready to show him exactly what value I brought to the team. I knocked on his door, my old office that should have been mine, and he called out, "Come in," without looking up from his laptop. I stood there for 30 seconds before he finally acknowledged my presence. Meredith, right? Like he didn't know. Like he hadn't seen my name on client reports for 6 months. "Have a seat. I've been reviewing your work." He finally looked up, and I saw it immediately in his eyes. That dismissive glance that took in my off-the-rack blazer, my Queen's accent, my obvious lack of Ivy League polish. In that split second, he'd categorized me. Administrative support pretending to be professional staff. "Your attention to detail is impressive," he said, flipping through my portfolio like he was humoring a child. "Very thorough documentation. But I have to ask, what's your long-term vision for strategic growth in the premium market segment?" It was a test, a way to expose my supposed lack of sophistication. But I'd been preparing for questions like this for years. I launched into a detailed analysis of premium market trends, demographic shifts, and positioning strategies. I talked about the psychology of luxury consumers, the importance of brand narrative, the delicate balance between exclusivity and accessibility. He listened with this growing look of surprise, annoyance, like he couldn't quite believe that someone like me could think on that level. By the end of week 1, Preston had made his strategy clear: isolate and eliminate. He started small. Email chains that mysteriously didn't include me. Strategy meetings scheduled during my lunch breaks. Client calls that happened without my knowledge. The Morrison account, my baby, my success story, suddenly became Preston's optimization project. He scheduled a meeting with the client without telling me, then came back furious. "Meredith, what exactly have you been telling Morrison Industries about our strategic direction?" His voice was ice-cold accusatory. "I give them monthly updates on campaign performance and discuss upcoming initiatives." "Why?" "Because they seem to think you're their primary point of contact. They barely acknowledged my authority as director. This is exactly the kind of boundary confusion we need to eliminate." Boundary confusion. The client trusted me because I'd spent 3 years delivering results for them. But to Preston, that loyalty was a threat to his authority. He restructured my role immediately. No more direct client contact, no more strategy meetings. I was relegated to campaign coordination, basically administrative support for my own projects. When I protested, he gave me that cold smile. "Meredith, I understand change is difficult, but we need clear hierarchies for optimal efficiency. Your detail-oriented approach is valuable for execution, just not for strategic leadership." Know your place. Week 3 was when Preston decided subtle undermining wasn't enough. He needed to establish dominance publicly, make an example of me in front of the entire team. It happened during our weekly department meeting. I'd prepared a presentation on Q2 performance metrics, data I'd been tracking for months. As I started to speak, Preston interrupted. "Actually, Meredith, let me handle the strategic overview. Why don't you focus on the administrative details?" 23 people in that room, 23 witnesses to my professional humiliation. But I kept my composure, handed over my presentation materials, and took notes like a good little coordinator. Preston proceeded to present my analysis as his own strategic insights. Every trend I'd identified, every recommendation I'd developed, suddenly it was all his brilliant leadership. After the meeting, my colleague Ashley cornered me. "Mary, that was your work. Everyone knows that was your work. Why didn't you say something?" Why didn't I say something? Because I needed this job. Because I had Sophia to think about. Because fighting back against someone with Preston's connections could end my career permanently. But mostly because I was starting to realize that this wasn't just about one bad boss. This was about a system designed to keep people like me in our place. And fighting the system requires more than just speaking up in meetings. It was Joaquin Rivera who changed everything. I'd known Joaquin for 2 years. Quiet IT guy, kept to himself, but always friendly. One day he approached me in the break room with this nervous look on his face. "Mary, I need to tell you something, but you can't let anyone know it came from me." He explained that as IT security specialist, he monitored all company communications, email traffic, file transfers, system access logs, and he'd noticed something disturbing. Preston was systematically stealing my work. He's been forwarding your strategy emails to his personal account, then deleting the forwarding records, making it look like the ideas originated with him. But I have the server logs. I have proof. My stomach dropped. It was one thing to suspect he was taking credit for my work. It was another to have confirmation that he was actively stealing intellectual property. But then Joaquin told me something that changed the entire game. Remember that recording app you installed last year for training sessions? It's still synced to the company cloud. Every meeting you've attended, it's all been automatically recorded. Every meeting, 8 months of meetings, every strategy session, every client call, every humiliating interaction with Preston, all documented, all timestamped, all stored in the company's own system. That night, I stayed late with Joaquin and went through the files. Hours and hours of audio. Preston's voice clear as day, taking credit for my ideas, mocking my background, systematically dismantling everything I'd built. What started as a fact-finding mission became something much bigger. As I listened to months of recorded meetings, I realized Preston's assault on me was just the beginning. He was systematically targeting every employee he considered substandard. There was Jennifer Kim, the coordinator who'd graduated from a state school instead of an Ivy. Preston's voice on the recording. Jennifer's work is adequate, but our clients expect a certain caliber of strategic thinking. We might need to transition her to a more appropriate role. Meredith Rodriguez from our graphics department. Marcus has potential, but his presentation skills lack polish. Very urban. Might be better suited for behind-the-scenes work. Ashley Chen, my closest friend in the department. Ashley's enthusiasm is admirable, but enthusiasm isn't strategy. She seems more suited for administrative support than client-facing positions. Every person he was targeting had one thing in common. We didn't fit his narrow definition of sophisticated. We were the state school graduates, the working-class kids, the minorities who'd had to earn everything we'd achieved. I spent weeks organizing the evidence. Email chains showing idea theft, audio recordings of him dismissing qualified employees, client feedback forms praising my work that he'd buried, performance reviews where he'd downgraded my ratings despite objective success metrics. But I needed more than just evidence of bad management. I needed something that would be impossible for the board to ignore. The quarterly board meeting was 6 weeks away. I knew Preston would be presenting the department's performance, taking credit for all our successes while preparing to purge anyone he considered unworthy. That's when I developed my plan. It wasn't just about exposing Preston. It was about protecting everyone he was targeting and ensuring this kind of systematic discrimination couldn't happen again. I started with the clients. Preston had been avoiding direct client contact, relying on me to manage relationships while he took credit for the results. But the clients didn't know that. To them, Preston was just the new guy who occasionally showed up to meetings. I began scheduling informal check-ins with our major accounts, Morrison Industries, Chen Group, Steinberg Corp., just routine relationship maintenance, making sure they were satisfied with our service. But I also started asking strategic questions. How do you feel about the transition to new department leadership? Are you confident in the continuity of our strategic approach? Do you have any concerns about future campaign development? What I discovered was enlightening. The clients were worried. They'd built relationships with me, trusted my understanding of their needs. Preston was a stranger who spoke in corporate buzzwords, but didn't seem to grasp their actual business challenges. Morrison's CMO put it perfectly. Meredith, you've been our partner for 3 years. You understand our customer base, our market challenges, our brand values. This new director, he seems smart, but he talks like a consultant. We need a collaborator, not an advisor. That's when I realized I had something more powerful than just evidence of Preston's misconduct. I had proof that his leadership was actively damaging client relationships. 2 weeks before the board meeting, everything came to a head. The Steinberg account, one of our biggest clients, fired us. Preston's response was swift and predictable. Blame me. He called an emergency department meeting, his face red with fury. This is exactly what happens when we allow unprofessional conduct to continue unchecked, he announced to the entire team. Steinberg Industries has terminated our contract, citing dissatisfaction with our strategic direction. After investigating, I've discovered that someone has been undermining our client relationships with unauthorized communications and off-brand messaging. Every eye in the room turned to me. I felt the familiar burn of humiliation, but this time it was different. This time I was ready. Meredith Rodriguez, he continued, your freelancing has cost this company a major account. This is exactly why we need proper oversight and professional standards. The room was dead silent. Ashley looked mortified. Jennifer was staring at her hands. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear. Preston was enjoying this, savoring his power to destroy someone's reputation in front of their colleagues. I stood up slowly, looked around the room at my colleagues, my friends, and said calmly, Preston, you're absolutely right. We do need professional standards, and I think it's time everyone understood what those standards really look like. The confusion on his face was beautiful. The board meeting. 15 board members, 5 major clients, assorted executives. The conference room was packed. Preston had prepared an elaborate presentation about his strategic restructuring of the marketing department. For 30 minutes, I watched him present my work as his achievements. The Morrison campaign success, the Chen Group expansion, the innovative demographic analysis, all attributed to his leadership. The board was impressed. The clients were nodding politely. Preston was glowing with confidence, probably already planning his next promotion. Then I raised my hand. Excuse me, Preston, could you elaborate on the demographic analysis methodology for the Morrison campaign? He smiled condescendingly. Of course, Meredith. As I mentioned, we utilized advanced psychographic segmentation combined with behavioral pattern recognition to optimize message positioning. Corporate buzzwords, impressive-sounding nonsense. That's interesting, I continued, because according to my records, the Morrison demographic analysis was completed on March 10th, but didn't you start working here on April 15th? The room went quiet. Preston's confidence wavered slightly. There might be some confusion about the timeline. Actually, there's no confusion at all. I stood up and walked to the presentation screen. Joaquin, could you connect my laptop? What happened next was the most satisfying moment of my professional life. 37 minutes of carefully curated audio recordings. Preston's voice, crystal clear, taking credit for others' work, mocking employees' backgrounds, systematically dismantling the department I'd helped build. But the coup de grace was the client testimonials I'd prepared. Morrison CMO, Chen Group's marketing director, Steinberg's brand manager, all on video, explaining how their success had come from working directly with me, not the new director who barely knew their names. Richard Blackwell's face went through about 6 different emotions in 30 seconds. Shock, anger, embarrassment, disappointment. His nephew, his golden boy from Harvard, had just been exposed as a fraud in front of the company's most important stakeholders. Preston, Richard's voice was ice cold. Clear out your office. Security will escort you out immediately. But the Morrison client wasn't done. He stood up and addressed the entire room. Mr. Blackwell, if Ms. Rodriguez isn't promoted to marketing director by tomorrow morning, Morrison Industries will be terminating our contract. She's the only person in this company who actually understands our business. Every client in the room agreed. 3 years of relationship building, 3 years of delivering results, 3 years of being the actual strategic mind behind our department's success. Finally, it all mattered. Richard turned to me with something that looked like respect. Ms. Rodriguez, it appears we owe you more than an apology. We owe you a career. That was 4 months ago. I'm now marketing director with a 60% salary increase, my own department budget, and the authority to implement merit-based advancement policies. Sophia starts at a private school next month. My mom's cancer treatment is fully covered. And Preston? Last I heard, he's selling insurance in Tampa, probably telling everyone how corporate politics destroyed his promising career. My name is Meredith Rodriguez. I'm the girl from Queens who beat the system by using the system's own tools against it. And if you're listening to this from your own cubicle, your own mailroom, your own place at the bottom of someone else's ladder, remember this. They can underestimate you, they can dismiss you, they can try to erase you. But they can't delete the truth, and sometimes the truth is enough.